One Take Gable, welcome.
Thank you.
Did you all see the commercial
I
that we
did.
filmed?
Nice
So Mark
job.
is famous because we are now calling him One Take Gable because he was that good.
Okay, are we all set? You can hear? All right. I call the meeting of the South Burlington Steering Committee to order on Wednesday, September 18th, 2024 at 6:01 p.m. Agenda item 2, agenda review, additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda. Thank you. No? All right. Agenda item 3, comments and questions from the public not related to the agenda. Do we have any comments from the public for anything not related to the agenda? Anybody online?
Not seeing any raised hands.
All right, then that brings us to agenda item 4, Safe Routes to School update with Counselor Andrew Chelnick and Board Member Elaine Sasai.
Sure, sorry.
We have two mics, the mic
I think
on.
mine is the button.
So
Oh, it's working?
Elizabeth will pick yours up for the room and the one in front of you is for RETN for streaming.
Oh, okay. All right, great. So, yeah, Safe Routes to School. We've been meeting since summer, January or thereabouts. A robust group of folks, so I represent the council and Tom has joined, other city staff has joined. Representatives from the school board, from school staff, school principals, from various schools have joined. Students have joined, members of the community, so a lot of really good input, and a lot of great interest in what that committee is doing. The committee has two principal tasks. I'm just going to enumerate them and come back. First task is to develop safe walking and biking routes to each of the 5 school campuses. And the second task is to educate. So plan events to encourage and educate the school community to use those routes. Okay. I'm gonna come back to those. We've done a number of other things also since January. So we provided feedback, for instance, on the Dawson Street project, which I think was well received by the engineer. Hopefully some of that will be incorporated. We spent some time discussing the Market Street to Teal Drive intersection, which, as we know, is now being studied by the city, and hoping we'll get some good feedback there to improve the safety and facilitate how that intersection works a little better. We discussed a bit about crossing guards, and we learned, how crossing guards, what the employment relationship typically is. We looked at various policies around the country for crossing guards. I think we decided to put, in the bike rack, I should say, develop our own crossing guard policy that, we may do, but we thought it made more sense, and I'll come back to it, to first look at the routes, identify the choke points. Maybe we'll all come to a consensus and we won't have to develop a policy, we'll just figure it out, we'll kind of know where they should go. And if we can, maybe we'll come back to try and develop a policy, which I think would be a fair bit of work, so we'll kind of talk about it. Okay, in terms of the routes, so we are going to be working with Chamberlain this fall. They have some very committed folks there that they've already started thinking about it. And really the hope is that we'll have, a good set of routes to Chamberlain. We're doing community outreach with them at various events, 3 events over the next month or 2. And then we'll take what we learned from that and hopefully expand it to the other school campuses in the spring, with the idea to have a full set of routes by spring. Collating that will help us identify choke points. Where do we need a crossing guard? Where do we need a crosswalk? Where do we need a flashing beacon? Things like that. We'll then prioritize all those needs. We'll work with Public Works to implement those things. And the idea is, hope by fiscal year 27, we'll have most of that either planned or in place. So that's the hope for that. In terms of the education piece of this, folks may know, we did the neighborhood to school route, Greenway, right, starting, Elsa Parkway, winding its way down to the middle school, high school campus. Cross our fingers that's successful, a lot of good work identifying that, kind of making that a safer route. We've now sent out a survey to folks, so we'll get impressions back, what folks like, what they didn't like. You know, do they think that having that route, you know, will help, will, you know, incentivize walking, biking, rolling to school. So, anxious to get that survey back and see how it all is. Let me see, Tom, do you think you could take a few minutes just to go back to the principal task, develop safe walking and biking routes? Tom's done amazing work with GIS mapping and has a spreadsheet of all this stuff. And I think it'd be good to flash it on the screen so everyone can kind of really see what we're talking about. And it kind of makes it, you know, you can, the look and feel is very impressive.
Maybe
So
somebody-
I'm already a panelist, so I think I can share. I just opened.
Do you have my links?
Is that what I mean?
Yeah, I can describe the other link.
The other,
Oh, I'm sorry, before I go, before I take precedent, Susan Grasso from Local Motion has chaired this committee and is a treasure and a gem. And without her, we would be much further behind. So just for the public and just, I want to share my gratitude to Susan at Local Motion.
Nick, are you able to make, Tom a panelist while he's working out, just in case we need some backup?
I'm not logged on. I was afraid it would make that terrible noise. So I'm gonna use Jesse's computer. I think I should be all set. I'm gonna try to share my screen.
Andrew, I'd like to echo, your appreciation for Susan. It's been an incredible amount of coordination, communication. And I appreciate the work that you've done, and Elaine has done. I know it's been a huge community effort, and the many, many other people who are supporting this. So, I think it's an awesome example of partnership and engagement.
Great. So, for those that don't know me, Tom DePietro, Public Works Director for the City of South Burlington. And I've been working with Andrew and many others on the Safe Routes to School Committee. So, what I wanted to run you through tonight is sort of where we are. It's very much a working draft, but I think it's a good amount of work that we're gonna be able to build on for the future. So what we've done is we've got all the schools, right? And we had our volunteers go out and identify issues. So they had, whether they did it paper and pencil or they did it on their phones, however, all of that feedback got brought into this spreadsheet that Susan has maintained. And I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here, other than to just keep scrolling to show you all the great feedback we got. We took that information and we put it into a map, which is much easier to look at and navigate, in my opinion. So as Andrew said, at the moment, we are focused on Chamberlain School. That's the first place we're gonna go and ask for some feedback. So what you see on the screen here is the safe routes, so the Chamberlain School in the middle, and the safe routes, or the routes to school, I should say, safe routes to school, identified with the yellow dash line. And so obviously students that are walking to school will be coming from neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods. So these are just supposed to be the primary routes to school that were identified, and we worked with Susan to get these mapped. Then based on the volunteer feedback and stuff we've seen, we took that giant spreadsheet and put little dots on here about the issue. So I'm gonna click on this one. You can see the issue is there's a missing section of sidewalk in South Street. So if somebody were to want to walk to school from, say, Patchen Road, wrong way. If I zoom in, you'll see there's no sidewalk on the south side of the street. It picks up further to the east here. So that would be here. It picks up all the way down here, for example. So that's just one example of, right, an issue that would be kind of a barrier to having folks walk to school. We have done this. This is all in draft form right now, because we have a whole feedback process we'd like to go through, and we'll add more things as we go here. And so at the moment, we've been focused on this half-mile radius, but we've got also a 1 mile and a 2 mile radius. If I were to zoom out, you'd see that. And anybody that might want to play around with this map, I'll just show you very quickly. We've got a bunch of other information in there. I'm actually going to add more tomorrow morning when I have a few minutes. But you know, safe routes to school for Marcotte. You see those blue lines down there. I've got the radii for Chamberlain on the screen. And then we've got all kinds of other data that we had available that some of our members felt was helpful, whether it's information about where there's traffic signals or stop signs, crosswalks, existing sidewalks and shared use path. That's all in there, kind of the best of our data at the moment. We update this as we're able to. Also very helpful is the elementary school catchment areas. So you can see Chamberlain catchment, that's what I called it, I think it's a better term, but where students would actually go to Chamberlain from, that's in yellow here, right? So there's nobody that's really gonna be walking to Chamberlain, presumably, from the other side of Williston Road. So kind of keep that in mind. And you do have some overlap. Some of these issues we've identified may actually impact multiple schools. So summarize anything else or just?
No, that's perfect, really, an amazing piece of work, thank you, Tom, really, the visuals are very impressive. So that's all.
This took a tremendous amount of work. And there was a great student at the high school last year who really helped us sort of, put it all, what he observed, together, and it's just enormous, the amount of information we have.
I think back to like probably a year ago or so, and this is just so much information that I feel like is crucial and needed, so it's exciting to see it here in this format.
My progress.
And, to connect it to the larger work, I think it connects neatly with the climate action plan, our climate goals, with our shared transportation goals, right? And supporting, so many of the initiatives that we're doing. So thank you so much. Really appreciate the work that everyone has done on this. The graphics are outstanding and certainly a better way of collating all of that anecdotal information.
Anything else on this?
Yeah, can I ask just a question, because I'm curious, from a busing perspective, do buses, are they within the circles that I'm seeing? So we're busing kids within that circle. So, and I'm just trying to figure out what the overlap might be. And if we're trying to ensure that there's safe routes in definitely in those areas where we don't bus them, right? So I'm not sure what's the perimeter in which we don't bus kids into school.
Yeah, it's interesting. So all of our schools are 2.5 miles within each other, right? So we're working within a pretty small area, especially by Vermont standards. Our policy states that our transportation policy, the district's policy, is that we bus students within 0.5 mile. That's a pretty typical state standard. The thing that the issue that we're contending with is that, if you look at these maps, we've got in all of our schools, very close proximity to extremely busy roads. So take the Chamberlain example, you've got Patchen Road, Heinsberg Road, right there. And there aren't sidewalks. The infrastructure isn't currently available. So there aren't sidewalks in order to, or effective mechanisms for safe crossing in a lot of these areas. So we have an urbanized area, and yet the distance it sounds safe, right? Like 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile. But when it comes to crossing those like Shelburne Road or Heinsberg Road, and there's not sidewalks, which of course, it's hard to imagine with this lovely weather we've been having, but in the winter months when the roads are narrowed because of snow, it changes the landscape quite literally.
So if the mapping is successful, and let's say we address the issues, so we identify the safe routes, and maybe we have crossing guard at some of the more troubling crossings, Heinsberg Road, some of the busier intersections. Would it then be possible to reduce the bus stops so that, within a 1/2 mile, we've concluded, there are safe routes for the children to get to school. We don't need to provide busing within that area. Is that something that is a potential?
Yeah, so right now we have an obligation to provide transportation blanketly. I think, the hope of linking to another conversation is, can we get our high school students connected with GMT bus passes? I think the hope is fewer cars on the road, fewer buses on the road. We have a transportation software that allows us to optimize routes. So likely what it would look like is fewer buses. Maybe we could have fewer bus stops that are further away from each other. And, depending on looking at the data of who is walking and who is needing to take a bus, But if there are, I mean, we want to be more bikeable and walkable, right? So if this is effective, I imagine it would reduce number of buses on the road. So it's kind of the North Star here. And then, thinking about, Green Mountain Transit and, developing that partnership, which connects to this conversation. The city of Burlington's had a lot of success with offering their high school students bus passes. So that's a conversation we're having concurrently as well, is just looking into, expanding that partnership as well. Getting cars off the road associated with school traffic is a huge shared interest for everyone at this table in our community. I think particularly about the bottleneck that school traffic causes during pickup and drop off times at Rick Marcotte and the opening of the new housing, the partnership and discussion that some of us in this room have had around looking at GMT schedules and ensuring that we can get folks to work or to, the hospital or wherever it is, and how can we make sure that school traffic is minimized. I think if there are safe routes around Marcotte, for instance, we could certainly reduce the number of cars on the road. So yeah, I think I can't imagine how that wouldn't increase walkability and reduce busing.
So Violet, how do you get people to stop bringing their kids to school?
So more bus drivers would do it, right? So we'd have fewer cars. Right now we have.
Is it a post-pandemic thing, that his parents just want to bring their kids to school every day?
So right now it's a staffing shortage associated with bus drivers. So we have planned cancellations. So parents are in a position where most of them are driving their kids to school. I think safe routes to school, GMT are both ways that we're trying to alleviate that. Thanks to the board, has negotiated a side letter where we have the highest paid bus drivers in the state, and yet we've not been able to attract one single licensed CDL driver. So it speaks to the pool being really limited. We have a number in training, but there's a long runway for that process. So I think the issue, I don't believe it's behavioral. I think it's, from what I'm understanding from parents, and we see a direct connection of traffic associated with bus cancellations at each school.
I had just a few sentences about GMT, because it is something that we hope to touch on with the school board tonight. So, and team jump in if I misrepresent something. So the conversation the council has had around the GMT reductions and recommendations for moving forward in partnership with superintendent, and Jean Marie has been a great addition to that conversation as well. The council intends on October 7th to consider a letter of request to GMT outlining what data-driven dreams we have for re-envisioning the connectivity of the city on public transportation buses. Our hope is that once we have drafted that and the council signs off, we would bring that to you all and you would consider signing off on that as well. It's been great to have Violet and Jean Marie at those tables, and we've really tried to integrate in how we reimagine those routes to best serve primarily our high school and middle school students. So heads up, that may be coming in your direction as well.
The letters to the legislature.
With the data that was collected, do we have an idea for each of the schools, what percentage of students or number fall within that half-mile radius?
We do, yeah. I want to thank Tom and Paul. We shared, the school shared information with students on every bus route, who rides the buses, where their homes are, what age they are. And we shared information on time of school start and end times. So it was really intentional and thoughtful, again, using software. The city worked with VHB on that as well. So, making data-driven decisions here. So appreciative of that partnership, Jesse. Thanks for mentioning that.
Say VHB.
Vanessa Hingen Breslin is a environmental engineering firm.
They did the GIS work for us, so they layered in the school data where the students lived in aggregate, in mapping very high level bubbles, where our planned permitted housing development is that we know of, So where we anticipate ridership growing over the next 10 years, in order to recommend routes where we could be driving fare revenue into the system that's not financially sustainable right now. So that's really what's informing the recommendations the council will, and hopefully you all will support the GMT, is building those routes around where there's good ridership and where there's ability to get more high school and middle school kids onto public transportation.
And just because some people may have not heard on GMT, that they were running against a timeline because by 15th of November, they're supposed to give their proposal to the legislature. So that's just so people know, this is why we're trying to do it in this time frame, is to add to that. So, and by the way, I'm the commissioner for South Burlington. That's what I'm just trying to do.
But how do the impending cuts, how do they affect this proposal to bring students on the bus? They're gonna cut a lot of routes.
So they have recommended a series of cuts. It's posted on our website or GMT's or website. In South Burlington, there is some significant reduction in the 11 and then some weekend hours. Our hope is that as they go through this public comment period over the next couple of months, these recommendations to re-envision the routes in South Burlington will be integrated before those cuts are made. So our hope is not necessarily to maintain total service in South Burlington. They're facing a $3 million budget gap, as we all know, that's a big challenge. But we're hoping to insert ourselves before those reductions go into place.
And there'll be, for part of the process for GMT to go forward, as mandated by the state, is that to seek a special assessment from various municipalities. And obviously the goal would be to sort of leverage that special assessment to accommodate the reimagining that would, through Jesse's good work and information, data provided by the school, as well as the information we have about the housing density, is to basically, as they make cuts, also reinsert another bus route that would maximize opportunity for high school students to basically join it, as well as for people within our community to move from one side of the city to the other, and then from the people from the city center to move primarily to UVM and to the hospital, which is where most of those people are associated with. And this could, in theory, if it works out, play out this year. I mean, play out this school year, not this calendar year, but this school year.
Any further comments or questions?
Just one small one, I guess this is more for the board here, is, you know, we're tracking on quite a bit right now, and as somebody who's not, I'm directly involved in Safe Routes to School. I guess from the rest of the board's perspective is what do you feel we should be tracking on at this point and paying attention to, just so I have an idea? Or if the city council has a suggestion as well, but they feel we might want to focus on mostly, so.
I do have a question, which is during that public comment period, would it be helpful to have advocacy from the school board?
So yes, that is our hope, because again, in partnership with your operations team, through Superintendent Machinery, they've really been at the table as we reimagine these routes with the data. Our hope is that as we codify those recommendations and the council supports a letter of support, that's kind of our community's public comment.
Okay.
We would hope that you would consider joining the council in signing on to that letter. And certainly, you know, I don't need to speak for Violet, but I'm hopeful that she would be supportive of, you know, the recommendations that we've talked about as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any public comment on this matter? Okay, thanks, Paul. Agenda item 5, FY 2026 budget preview discussion. And we have the city orange first. Do the two of you want to do individual presentations or, yeah, okay. Justin, would you like to start?
Sure, I'd be happy to start. So I am going to be relatively quick, I think. So the council has adopted an FY 26 budget schedule, as everyone I think knows, but I mean for public watching, the FY 26 budget is the budget that will go from July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. It's the budget that the community will vote on town meeting day. So the council has adopted a schedule outlining the steps it will take between now and then and has started that process. Primarily they received the first FY 26 projections on Monday night and had a conversation among themselves about direction they wanted to provide to the department heads and to me as we build our FY 26 budget. All of the materials for that are on the city's website under Monday's council agenda, and we're building out a specific FY 26 budget page as well. So to give you a preview of what they heard on Monday night, again, that data is all on the website. To maintain our current level of services, so to maintain the current municipal services, public safety, public infrastructure, libraries, recreation, capital investment, and to continue our investment in implementing the city's climate action plan, we project we would need a 7.3% increase to the tax rate. Our current tax rate is 51 cents on $1,000 of home value. So on Monday, the council provided some guidance to us, not necessarily a formal vote, but some feedback to us as we developed that process, develop those documents. So what they asked us to do is to present a budget that maintains current operations, wanting to meet those expectations of the community. They wanted us to review all possible revenue streams to limit the impact on the property taxpayers. We all have heard loud and clearly that affordability in our community is a significant issue. So we have some options to diversify revenue streams. So they've asked us to really examine those closely and bring forward a set of recommendations, again, to limit that impact on the property taxpayers. So to that end, they've also asked us to bring forward 3 different budget scenarios. A budget scenario at CPI, which is currently per our contractual obligation, the August to August Northeast CPI, which is sitting at 3.4% increase. So our first scenario will be at 3.4%. Our second scenario will be around 4.5%. And our third scenario will be at 5.39% or below, which is the percent increase we needed this year to continue our commitment. So we're trying to stay under the rate of increase that we have seen, that the property taxpayers saw last year. So just as a reminder, the city's budget makes up about 26% of every property tax bill in the city. And about 60% of the general fund budget is made up of property taxes. So it's a very small percentage of, or not very small, it's a majority, but not a vast majority of our general fund budget. So the next steps in our process are the council will have a community listening session on October 7th. We will see that in the other paper on tomorrow, Thursday, tomorrow. And we have started pushing it out through our website and social media channels. We've also built a very short online survey for folks to weigh in on their FY 26 priorities, what they expect from the city, as a way to increase in participation without having to come and stand up at a public meeting and give feedback as well. As well as offer an opportunity for community members to sign up for updates. So as we release budget information over the next couple of months, we will be emailing that directly to people who are interested. The leadership, city's leadership team had our first big kind of budget goal setting and development session this morning. Department heads have all of the forms. They are working on building both their personnel budgets, operational budgets, and capital budgets. And we also are we as staff, in addition to the council, are really looking forward to what we hear from the community on October 7th and before and after for that matter. So that is my summary of where we are as a leadership team and council. Team, did I miss any highlights from our conversation? You're happy to answer any questions.
We did talk, Jesse, about the October 7th community session is new for council. And we talked about potentially anticipating a number of questions on the school funding. So I don't know if we want to talk here about, you know, what your feedback would be to manage that. But we are anticipating that we may get a lot of questions, and we'd like to direct folks to the council side of it or the city side of it. However, given the publicity on the general ed fund, I imagine that a lot of questions will come up.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. I think it's essential that the council and the board work closely together this budget season in particular. The school district is in a far worse position than we have ever been in historically, without having the opportunity to leverage 2 fiscal years of surpluses. So out of the gate, we're looking at we have $3.2 million that we don't have. And Elizabeth, as you would say, back of the napkin math, that's about 62 staff members. The equivalent of, I should say, just using the figure of $100,000 per person on that. So, we, in talking about some of our shared priorities, thinking about how we can work together on some of the community issues we're seeing, from, traffic and safe routes to school, to, some of the mental health needs that the community is seeing in your city center. We discussed with, some of you it's an ongoing issue where we're seeing sharps on the Martin Playground. So I think it's just continuing the partnership on how are we working together on some of the issues that impact the community we serve, and really trying to pare down where we all can and to support where we can. It's just my general feedback on that, Elizabeth, but if you've got something more specific, I'd be happy to respond to that.
Can I also just manage expectations maybe a little for Violet and myself at an October 7th meeting? I think that our intention for that meeting, is really to hear from the community. I think the reality is we are not going to be prepared to talk about what the FY26 budget is in any detail beyond what I just shared. So I think really it's a listening session more than a question and answer session. Because we won't be there. I think we should talk a little strategically about, I will deliver my budget to the council the first Monday in December. Once we get to that point where we have proposed budgets, then how do we do some of these perhaps shared Q&A sessions on the budget might be a better opportunity. What's that?
If nothing else, what I'm thinking of, Jesse, here is that, I assume this will be a recorded meeting.
Yes.
So if there is feedback, which I expect there would be related to school issues, if nothing else, the board could review that, after the fact. So it's additional feedback.
Elizabeth, were you open for a board member to be present or just to hear?
Get a head start on what's coming.
Sure.
Always best to work together.
To that end, the board has been discussing writing letters to the governor and to the legislature and to the Commission for the Future of Public Education. And at, I think, our last meeting, we were discussing the contents of that letter. And Councilor Fitzgerald mentioned that the city council might be amenable to signing a joint letter. Is this a good time to think about how we want to move forward on that, or? It's not technically, I think it's related to the budget, so we can discuss it now, or if you want to make a plan to discuss it otherwise. I think it would be more impactful if our city council signed on to a letter with us as the board.
I mean, my own feedback, aside from we can't take any action here, is obviously that needs to be something that would be generated by the district. And I think I can't speak for everybody, but similar to the letter that I think council signed off on last year, there might be a willingness there, but obviously the concern is shared because we share a taxpayer, and to the extent, even as taxpayers, urging our legislature to look at solutions to general ed funding is important.
I think the general tenor of the letter would be similar to the letter that I shared with you all. And just trying to really communicate our concerns and our community's situation effectively to those who are, making changes. I think particularly the members of the Future of Ed are important for us to address. They're going to be making an initial recommendation to the governor in early December. So it's a pretty quick timeline for us to. It will be public. So their meetings are recorded. Last year, we were all watching Ways and Means, and that was the committee. It's absolutely a warned public meeting, and I'm looking for the meeting for you right now. here, their report is due on December 1st. They had their first public meeting on July 15th, so they'll be convening, again, so I'll share that information as I see it.
Have we been providing input to that process?
So no, so far, they had their first meeting on July 15th, and they discussed sort of process and what they're doing, and this, the interim secretary, Zoe Sanders, Secretary of Education, that is conducting listening tours. So on Friday, she has invited, Tim Jarvis, Senior Director of Finance and Ops, Kristen Romick, our Executive Director of Education and Support Systems, Holly Ruel, one of our principals, and I will be meeting with the commission. So it's a number of public engagements. We, as a Vermont Superintendents Association, have a representative on the committee, who is the, Mike is the, Lechlater is the superintendent of Harwood. And at VSA, we shared, feedback, pretty overwhelming feedback, to look at, Act 46 and to develop a committee on school closure. So one thing we know is that cost containment is critical and that we want to, maintain programming and have high quality education. But the sheer number of buildings with the significant facilities issues that we face, which are so costly, from PCBs to lead and everything in between, we are driving ed quality down and increasing costs with just the sheer number of facilities that are in operation. So it's taken VSA a while to get to that point. A really interesting discussion in that I was sitting at a table with the superintendent who has the smallest district in the state. And then to my right was the largest. And so it was really good conversation. We all came together as an organization that we really need to look at, if we're going to be talking about equity, which is the intent of Act 127, which so significantly modified ed funding, we have to talk about the number of facilities that we're operating. So that's a big piece of the engagement there. The committee is going to continue in these engagement tours, and that feedback will be shared on that December 1st report. So I'll share that with you all when I see it. And if I see a link for when I see a link for where these meetings are, I will send them to you all. I will certainly be tuned in. It's like the HBO of the, school superintendents. Last year it was Ways and Means, and this year it'll be the Commission for the Future of Public Education.
Any questions or comments for the city?
So maybe next steps, if the account is, so perhaps Chelsea could share a draft of a letter and we could approach it the same way we did with last year's joint letter, and you all could elect to sign on or not, or perhaps Tim and Chelsea could work together on that, for providing feedback. I think the content would largely be what you've already seen, which I've shared, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's intended to be, the letters that we're hoping to draft are intended to be advocacy, so it's not necessarily, I don't think there's gonna be specific asks, it's gonna be, this is the fact of the situation that we're in, and please do something about it, so.
Is this same letter gonna be submitted by every other supervisory district as well to the governor?
I think there's advocacy happening in district levels that looks really different. So in some communities, there's really effectively organized, cohesive advocacy. In others there aren't. And there's districts who are not advocating. There's districts who are advocating, saying, do not change a thing in Act 127. So I think we're seeing all over the map. I do think that there's, I think, we're, to borrow Jesse's words, we're an economic engine of the state. We're experiencing growth. And in order to support our communities, we need strong schools and we need a city budget to pass. So, and one will impact the other here. So I think we have, and then given the sheer, magnitude of the number of students in Chittenden County statewide, I think that there's a lot of, just by the numbers, the number of people this impacts is significant. And so with that, I think, any sort of communication that you all can do as joint bodies is, it has weight.
Well, would you like to give your preliminary budget review?
Sure, okay, so I've been hiding a bunch of slides as we've been speaking, but pick your own adventure. If you ask a question, I might unhide them. So, and I'm looking at the time here. I know we're a little.
15 minutes.
Okay, so, very good. I like that the band comes up, so I can't actually, share and see the buttons to press, so pardon me, so I toggle here. All right, so, I'm going to shorten this pretty significantly. This is meant to be, I've eliminated the review of where we ended up last year. I think we're sort of caught up to speed on that, and all of this information, including the full slide deck, without the slides I've hidden for this conversation, is available on our website. We have just today put up our FY26 budget webpage, and we're going to be packing that with loads of information. So the link is in this deck as well. So I wanted to start off by sharing some information about and spending per long-term weighted average daily membership. That is a factor that used to be, it's been modified, but it was what we knew as equalized pupil. South Burlington has a historic reputation of low tax rates and a high quality of education for a cost that we try to keep very modest. This graphic here shows some Chittenden County ed spending. And I think it's really important to see where we ended up, which is about 12,500 per, it's not a per pupil, it's the long-term weighted daily average. So it's the impact of the Act 127, so it's weighted. And we're the lowest of our contemporaries, as you can see. And with the $3 million surplus, we were the lowest, that is. We are still pretty close to it without that, but you see this number in red here is where we would have been without the surpluses that we applied as revenue to reduce the tax rate for our community for this current fiscal year. And I think it's important to draw our attention to just, again, we're consistently ranked the best district in the state, #1 high school. And we're not at a point where we can continue programming to maintain the quality of education with the current predictions of fiscal year 26. So some of the initial factors, and I will be brief on these because I could go on and on. I did ask the interim secretary several weeks ago the direct pointed question: what level of certainty can you provide that there won't be significant modifications to the ed funding formula late in the game after we've warned budgets at any given point? And the answer is we don't know. So there could be significant change even after we've warned our budget. We have the future of the Commission on the Future of Public Education. This is an 18-month study committee. That puts us out multiple fiscal years. And so that we can't count on them being a cavalry that's coming to save us now. One hope last year after our advocacy was Act 84, which provided these pennies discounts for the change from equalized pupil to LTW ADM, of which South Burlington was significantly impacted. So when we started saying, hey, state of Vermont, we're in a crisis here, they said, okay, great. We will give you a pennies kind of support, which will be phased out, with a reduction of 20% each year until fiscal year 30. So at, BASBO, which is the Association of Business Officials, we have learned for the first time, that, just on Friday, and I've seen nothing in writing yet, but it's our understanding that is going to be adjusted with the new rules of Act 183. So that puts us in an even more dire situation, and that we don't have the provisions of Act 84 that we thought were cushions to 127's impact for us. Also with this was discussion of using in the ed funding formula, the CLA of 76.6 as an average, which would cause significant concern for our community, as I'll share later with some modeling. Some of you have read Governor Scott's letter on education funding. Take a look at it if you haven't. It's a warning of a challenging budget season. So this is going to be highly publicized once again, which is good. You know, we want our community to be well informed. We're anticipating inflation anywhere from 2 to 2.3%, based on the Federal Reserve. So modest inflation, which is positive. So, you know, what are we looking at here as a district? When we talk about flat modeling, if we were to literally have a 0% increase and the CLA remain the same, we'd be at an over 7% homestead tax rate increase. And that's not feasible, even given that we know we have teachers and support staff negotiations. We know that we're looking at likely a 22% cost in health insurance paid by contributions from the district. We don't have the surplus any surplus available to allocate. This real estate inflation factor that we know is the CLA is going to be significant. We've had 2 back-to-back drops, 11 and 9%, and that directly impacts the tax rate. So when the CLA is lowered, the higher the tax rate. So the further we are from a reappraisal year, which we are yet another, even though it's calculated on the 3-year rolling average, is going to have another significant impact on the community's tax rate. We've drawn down the final $5.5 million associated with the passage of the bond that passed in March of 2023, and so we'll have debt services on that as well.
So the zones.
The bond was inclusive of the ZEMS. It was 6 million was ZEMS, and then the remaining pieces were to support our other schools. So some examples, we just did roofing projects, heat pumps, things of that nature. And as a reminder, it's an estimated 92% of the ZEMS cost will be recuperated through impact fees. So that will be shown as a revenue in our modeling. This is where we could get really in the weeds, but I'm going to keep it pretty high level. I'm going to show you a few scenarios where we are looking at no surplus. We are looking at varied levels of CLAs. We don't have any hard figures here. But again, with a 0% increase in spending, which we know we cannot achieve between the fixed costs of our committed to CBAs and health insurance, not even to mention inflation, we'd be at 7.18. That also assumes the CLA of 82, which I do not see any reality where that is happening.
About 6 minutes.
Sure, I think I can do this. So this graphic shows tax increases with increases in expenses with no change in CLA. So again, I cannot state enough that this will not happen, but we know it's our current CLA. So I want to share with you modeling here. So if we have a % increase along the bottom, you see what those would be and what the corresponding tax increase would be. This one is looking at budget cuts over the fiscal year 25, which is the current budget we're living in. And what would be needed to achieve a 5% tax increase. And so if you see the CLA factor here, as I discussed, this is massive. So right now on the far left, this first bar, we have the CLA of 82.54. The last few years, it's been, 9, 11%. So if we were to go down another 10%, which that is a realistic assumption that one could make. We could go to, 72, which is the furthest bar on the right. And you see the reductions that we would need to cut. This would be $7.6 million. And I truthfully don't know how we could operate schools at this rate. For those interested, please check out the links in this presentation. There's more information on some modeling here. This is the link to our budget website. We're going to be putting our budget timeline, which will be discussed at the October 9th board meeting. It'll be finalized. I can tell you from that timeline a few initial factors here. We are looking at so community engagement as well, to sort of share some of the pieces Jesse did. We're really excited about the finance committee that the board has commissioned. And really that committee is focusing on education, advocacy, and feedback loops for budget feedback. We need a lot of engagement on this. We know that we're going to have to make extremely difficult cuts, and we want to hear from our community about where that should be or where it shouldn't be. In November, we're looking at a community forum hosted by the finance committee. We're throwing around a couple of dates. We're going to have that published for the October 9th meeting where we share our budget timeline. We'll also do a survey. On December 6th, I'll be presenting with Tim Jarvis, our initial fiscal year 26 budget recommendations. This will include some budget numbers. So that's a big date for folks to know. Our third and final budget presentation, again, on the draft timeline would be January 8th. That it would be the final date by statute for the board to adopt a budget and approve it for our annual meeting warning. So those are two big dates right there. And appreciative of the finance committee. We'll discuss that more in the meeting today. But really leading a lot of the engagement work, community forums, and I'll send another survey as well in partnership with the committee. We'll work on what that looks like. So I think I have, by the skin of my teeth, made the timeline here. And those who know me are going to be impressed by this. So Chelsea, I will, I'm happy to answer questions or comments or anything as well, but I've concluded my speaking presentation in a timely manner.
Any questions at this time?
Just one question, I just wanted in terms of understanding of when, we'll have sort of the starting line on the picture, because I understand you said you made the total presentation on the budget the first Monday, which is December 2nd. And the school board would be on December 6th. So basically on December 6th, we would have, the public would have a picture of the city budget first, so to speak. And you said your deadline for the board to adopt the budget was January 8th. What is it for the city? Just
You will adopt on your January 13th.
January 13th. Okay.
And Violet, I don't mean to correct, but just so we're public, December 6th is a Friday. Do you mean December 4th?
Well, in the draft, it is December 6th, but that could absolutely be an error, and I'm gonna flag that now. Thank
I
you.
was like,
We don't, those would not draw a crowd, and the intent is very much
Yeah.
engagement, so yeah, thank you, Jesse, that's helpful. December 4th. Yeah.
so but to your point,
So the
Mike,
first week of December, the picture will be clear. to
Yes.
December 4th, we've confirmed. I've officially modified the Google Doc. No one would come on a Friday. There'd be fun things going on in the city, right? Lights to look at, food to eat, snow angels to make.
Any other comments or questions? Before we wrap this agenda item, any comments from the public? Okay. Right, agenda item 6, overview of city center development and upcoming capital projects. Jesse.
Great, thank you. So in partnership with, Lissa and Violet, we scheduled, a Scoop on City Center event during in-service this year, August 26th, I think is the date. To try specifically for, sorry, it's hard to do this and talk at the same time. Specifically for City Hall staff and Rick Marcotte staff to try and ensure that the professionals who work in City Center could really be champions for City Center and know what was going on in their neighborhood and ask questions and get the information they needed to respond to parents or guests or library patrons or folks coming in to vote, whatnot. So we didn't, because I think it was in service in a really busy time for teachers, we didn't get a lot of participation. So I asked Violet and Chelsea if it would be okay to run through this presentation with you tonight as a way to share the information with the public. Like Violet, I have hidden some slides in the interest of time. So I'm going to walk through this quite quickly, but I'm happy to pause on any information that folks might want additional information on. And of course, this presentation is attached to the agenda for tonight, so members of the public can view it in detail. So I want to start by saying City Center has been a vision of this community since the 70s. It was in the first city plan back in the 70s and has continued through every city plan since. We adopted a new city plan last year, and of course, significant goal in that to build out our developing downtown. I think it's important to talk about what is City Center. A lot of people think of City Center as Garden Street and Market Street, which it certainly is, and that is where a lot of the change is happening. But City Center is actually, through state designations and community votes, significantly bigger than that and stretches as defined by the state across Williston Road to the U-Mall property and of course our TIF district. Our hope is over the next couple of decades that these entire blocks will become the downtown that the community is envisioned. I'm not going to go into great detail tonight in tax increment financing because while I think it's really cool and interesting, it does tend to have people glaze over. Happy to answer questions about TIF if folks want. TIF funding, TIF projects are projects that have been voted on multiple times by the community and really are meant to build out this walkable, bikeable downtown. So here you see the 4 key TIF projects left on that list. City Hall and the library, of course, being the most visible one that's already done. To increase the connectivity of our downtown, we have the walk bike bridge over the interstate. We have the streetscape improvement project on Williston Road. We have building out Garden Street and improving the Garden and White Street intersection. And of course, then the boardwalk project that will bring increased connectivity between Goose Park on Market Street, City Center Park, and very excitingly provide some better access to the middle school and high school campus. So there's a slide here outlining each of these projects. So Williston Road streetscape and improving the Al's French Fries intersection, which we refer to as the White Street intersection, but most people think of as Al's Fries. Trues Up makes an actual 4-way stop there, improved bike and pedestrian infrastructure, street trees, etc. City Center Park, again, this is the boardwalk project. You can see the connectivity here from the Rick Marcotte School, from Goose Park on a shared use path that will be maintained year round, back to the rear of the element of the Tuttle and the high school campus. We're really excited about this one. This one is the next one to kick off. We are looking to bid out this project in the next few weeks for construction this winter and next summer. Our biggest project, of course, is the walk bike bridge over the interstate. We've received $19 million in federal funding to complete this project. So again, to limit that impact on the taxpayers and really create that sense of connectivity between our neighbors in Burlington and South Burlington, as well as our South Burlington neighbors in the Quarry Hill neighborhood to their downtown as well. So sorry to jump around for a minute. I'm going to show you another graphic of all of these projects and timing in just a minute. We do want to highlight what has happened as a result of the TIF district, and the success we've seen in the city. So we've added almost $70 million to the tax base. These are folks who are paying, property owners who are paying their full freight of, property tax dollars. We've added, 58,000 square feet of new commercial space to grow that vibrant downtown, and of course, hundreds of new homes for our neighbors. So, and often we get questions about, well, there's just housing, this isn't really a downtown. That is true at the moment along Market Street, although surrounding Market and Garden, there is an enormous amount of commercial space, as we all know, through the University Mall, the Blue Mall, Williston Road, to create some connectivity there. But on Market Street and Garden Street, the first floors will all be commercial. There's about 50,000 square feet of new commercial space. I will share that we've had our first commercial permit pulled for a restaurant that will go in on the block on Market Street that's currently occupied, closest to Garden Street, on the corner by the Plaza mid-block. So it's exciting to know that that will be happening. If you know of any small businesses that would like to open in City Center, they are open for business. So the question we most get is what's happening next and when is it happening? So on this slide, we give an overview of what the timing of welcoming these new neighbors. This, of course, was a presentation we did in August. So you still see August 24 move-in dates up there, but then you see the building behind the one on Market and Garden Street will open in October. Next summer, June and August 25, the other two buildings across the street on Market Street will open. And then in June of 26, you'll see the building next to the stormwater pond open. And then similar map for our streetscape improvement projects and the timing associated with those. So from, completed in August 24 through September 26, opening of Garden Street. And then, of course, by the end of next summer's construction, we will have the new signalization of the Heinsberg Market Street intersection as well, a new traffic light going in there. So in addition to infrastructure, there is a lot we are doing programmatically and anticipating with policy to ensure that City Center is the vibrant downtown that the community has envisioned. So I want to mention that we are developing a paid parking system. That's actually farther in our agenda, so I will pause on that and talk about it then. Also, of course, thinking about other additional traffic improvements, considering a city green that we'll also talk about more, and the South Burlington City Center Collaborative. And huge thanks to Lissa for participating in that collaborative. If folks have ever been to events or seen events put on by Montpelier Alive or Downtown Winooski, this collaborative is meant to be an incubator to become one of those kind of community development organizations that run events and beautify the community and support the commercial district. And then, of course, there are lots of other fun programs, our library and recreation parks and rec. So I will leave it there. Again, happy to answer any questions about City Center that folks have. And this resource is in your packet if you would like to share it with your neighbors or if you get questions over time.
Just for clarity, for questions and public comment, the next agenda item talks about the city green and city center parking. So any questions or comments at this time, you want to save them if they're related to that. It's the next agenda item. Any comments or questions?
I think this is great, and I have to say, as a biker, I haven't biked all month that much this summer. The connector over the interstate is going to be phenomenal. I think that's, you have so much from UVM happening up there coming down. It's a very dangerous way, for people to get down. I'm very excited to see that go in. A lot of times I bike up towards UVM, but then you cannot come back down. So it's just going to be a great thing for the city. So.
Yeah, that exit, like on and off at 89 over that bridge, whenever I'm the one driving either to get onto the interstate or off, and I like every time I remember that there are crosswalks there. And I think if I had to stop for a pedestrian right now, it would be like, because I'm trying to like move with the traffic that's moving and not be It's very scary, so I'm excited about this also.
Thanks
It's
for the
really,
time, I appreciate it.
yeah, it's really professional, the sound effect. Tired.
Thank you for working closely with Marcotte too, and for sharing this with staff and for the opportunity to do that. I appreciate that connection. Good neighborly. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Great neighbors.
Okay, there's no further discussion at this time. We'll move on.
Can I just make a quick comment? I did have a chance to tour the elementary schools this morning. And, Lissa, commented on, with all of the new residents coming into city center, there's really not signage at Marcotte School that, would indicate that the green areas are really not available during school hours. So she did talk about that is going to be some improvements the school district's making to sort of provide that guidance to folks that maybe haven't had the experience of living close to a school before. And it's clear, that people probably wandered onto the property that are new to the area. So I thought that was important.
Does that mean that information will be available inside the buildings as well in the lobbies or distributed by the landlords to the tenants when they start their leases?
So we have relationships with those building managers, so if that's a good idea, if we could help get.
We
word
can
out
definitely
about that.
do that. Yeah, Elizabeth is referring to, two different signage efforts. One is that on the side of the Zems, we're literally going to put that it's a school, right? So we're gonna have a sign affixed to the building. And then we're also, erecting signs at our schools that say this is school property. It's not accessible to the public during school hours, list the school hours. That's not a concern that we've had until now. So we'll have those, at our schools. And, it would be great to share some, should I just shoot that directly to you, Jesse, information on,
Yeah,
that
so,
we want to go to residents when they're welcomed to their new homes?
so you're welcome to share it with me. Andy, our communications coordinator, is the one who's built that connection to
Great.
share information. So if Julia wants to send him
Yep.
information, whenever, or he can just connect Julia to the property owners as well if you want to do any additional school-based advertising.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Can I ask, do you know if those buildings are pet friendly?
Don't.
I'm just thinking about like how important it would be for residents to know that that's a school and kids might be out there if they have dogs. I immediately think of dogs that are not kid friendly. That would be a real hazard. So I'm just curious.
That makes me think of dog waste in the schoolyard.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah, that school will be, that green space will be enticing for folks in that area because it's literally their front yard. So that's a good point.
Anything else? Okay, agenda item 7, overview of other shared priorities. First is the charter committee discussion on all resident voting.
I think I'm gonna do a bit more talking to all of you here. if you don't mind. So, and again, council, feel free to, add. On September 3rd, the council adopted, so as you all know, I think, we have a standing charter committee, but they only convene when the council directs them to work on something. So on September 3rd, the council approved a resolution, asking the charter committee to convene to look at the possibility of allowing all residents to vote in local elections in South Burlington. In addition, on that resolution, they codified the school board having 2 appointees onto the charter committee for rotating 3-year terms. So we really appreciate that partnership through the last charter committee and want to make sure it would continue into the future. I just want to be clear that all resident voting, the soonest that all resident voting charter change could get to a ballot would be town meeting day 2025. That is a very aggressive schedule. That means the council needs to start considering ballot language in November and December and have a series of public meetings and move forward. With any charter change, our charter is our city constitution, it's state statute. If approved by the voters, it then has to go to the legislature for consideration and then to the governor if passed for signatory or allowed to pass into the law. So we're hoping to have a fairly robust community conversation about this over the next few months and see what the will of the community is. So just wanted to provide that update that is moving forward.
Just for clarification, so legal resident voters, so documented
Yes.
folks.
Good, good clarification.
And I only had one person give me feedback on the proposal. And they were not well enough educated on the issue, and when I told them what it was all about, they said, very well, it's fine. So there will be a huge, not huge, but there will be an education, element here for the public. Because some people will say, it's a sanctuary city. We're like, no, it's not a sanctuary city. Burlington Winooski's already done this. It's a very simple thing. You live here, you pay taxes here, or otherwise, right, we're going to give you the possibility to vote on our budgets. That's the proposal.
Anything you need from our end?
Just really thankful that you have participants in that conversation with us.
Can you ask a related update on, expansion of the city council? Any updates on that?
So the council has decided for the time being not to move that forward this fiscal year. It's on their fiscal year 26 bike rack or parking lot of ideas. The council just had their second retreat on the policies and strategies annual work plan process and Monday night adopted that FY26 work plan. Just super exciting for their manager and decided to move that expansion to FY26. For discussion.
Meeting? All right. The next item is the city green.
Still me, so. As I think folks know, the council is interested in creating a city green and city center, a gathering place for neighbors to come together and connect and meet. So we have hired Wagner Hutchins to be our landscape architect consultant to do high-level scoping of the possibilities for that. They will present their findings at the October 21st council meeting. And then the council will decide how to move forward. Again, that's very high-level scoping of where such a location could go and amenities the community is interested in and high-level cost estimates for such a project. We had a number of community engagement conversations around that visioning, and we're pretty pleased with the participation. And we'll see how it moves forward. So again, could impact schools.
Any further discussion or questions about the city green? Any other comments? We do have a question and answer. Typically what the school board is trying to hold as a practice is the chat and the question and answer are for tech issues only, and we would ask people to raise their hands to comment. I didn't state that at the beginning of this meeting. So we have a question from a constituent that says, just wanted to mention that we consider affordability and access if we are implementing paid parking. Okay. Yeah, please come on up, state your name for the record.
Hey, Bailey. What else do I have to state?
I wanted to point out that in the initial appointment of the charter committee from the school board, we had a student representative. And then the student representative graduated and was replaced by a non-student. And so that got me thinking about whether there is space to add a student representative to the charter committee at this point. And also in terms of the city green, could you speak a little bit to the effort of reaching out to our younger and youngest residents? And has there been any intentional engagement for students and young people in your city green planning? Thanks.
If you're prepared to answer.
Okay, both are great questions. I'll let the school board talk about their appointments. I don't think we have done any intentional outreach to the school community, other than kind of co-promoting it in the superintendent's newsletter and the city news. Letter, I don't know if we have done any more intentional outreach to the student population and the younger population. We should definitely do that. Thank you for the suggestion.
But the consultants have taken great pains to study lots of different, public spaces around the country. And have given us lots of examples and the age ranges of people that enjoy those spaces and that functionality of those spaces. So they're thinking about different age groups, you know, for how that space would be configured.
Can I ask a follow-up? Are the consultants considering, like, are you saying they have experience with younger, smaller people in planning the city green? I think of, I don't know if you've been to Oak Ledge Park in Burlington since they did their kind of redesign, but their playground is incredible in that park. It's so accessible, and things that they've considered, like the slide doesn't get hot even if it's in direct sun all day. And, it's huge, so families can go down all together. And, the slide is built into a hill, so you can't fall off the ladder when you're climbing up the ladder to go down the slide. There's just a lot of really thoughtful, intentional design, and it's really nice.
So, yes, I think Wagner Hutchins has experience in, I don't know if they did Oak Ledge. I know they did City Center Park in Burlington that has some kind of younger folks oriented, amenities. So I think they have that kind of experience.
We're too still as a group.
This is how we save money.
This is right.
That's some of the climate action planning plan here.
For the budget year to come, solar panels are not producing.
Okay, any further discussion, questions, comments? That's anything. Okay, now we can move to agenda item, city center parking planning, which the statement I just read out from East Situate would be applicable here.
Last one for me, I promise. So paid parking is really critical to supporting a commercial vibrant downtown. We need to ensure that there's parking turnover, to ensure that there are spaces to support the commercial spaces. So we received a grant from the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, CCRPC, to support our work in hiring a consultant to build a parking management plan and strategy for City Center this year. We are finalizing that contract hopefully by the end of this week, and kicking off that work. That contract includes intentional conversations with the school administration and the Rick Marcotte teachers and families around how they would want to integrate into a parking solution, or how the parking spaces at Rick Marcotte would be integrated or not into such a program. I anticipate that the parking management work will take between 6 and 9 months, and to be followed by ordinance and other policy work that the council will need to do to set up a paid parking system and a parking enforcement system in South Burlington. That's really all I have to share at this point. I did just want you to know it's happening, and want you to know that we know that addressing the Rick Marcotte parking lot is going to be integral to the success of any paid parking system or parking management system. And to Diane's point, we are also built into that consultant contract is an awareness that City Hall and the library and the senior center are public buildings, and we want to ensure that they remain publicly accessible and people have access and are not limited to access because of paid parking requirements. So I don't know what that looks like yet, but we will build out a system that has structures in place to enable that.
Jesse and I have had conversation throughout the last couple of years around just the uptick of community members parking at Marcotte in the parking lot. And so, in our preliminary discussions, Jesse has said that the city is gonna find a way in this plan to, whatever the mechanism, ensure that the school parking lot is accessible for those who need it and not part of the paved planning and not then just like a parking lot where folks can park for free. So whatever that mechanism looks like. So that's, great for our school staff and our community members who are impacted by that parking lot. So,
And
thank
I
you.
will, we have, yes, thank you, Violet. We have had those initial conversations. I will float just for the back of minds, and obviously many more conversations to come. So South Burlington is the only community I've worked with without a paid park, without parking enforcement, which is really lovely, and part of me doesn't want to get anywhere near it, but, we want to have a vibrant downtown. The trick of vibrant downtowns and parking is to maximize the use of parking spaces. So to make sure as many hours a day they are used for appropriate uses, whether it's overnight being used for folks at home or during the day being used for folks at work or going to restaurants and bars. That really is how you keep a parking network healthy and vibrant and affordable. So the school would have the option to think over time about how we limit public parking on the school parking lot during hours, which it is absolutely needed for school operations, and make revenue on those spaces for in the hours where it is not necessary for critical school operations. We are also talking with private property owner, or we will be talking with private property owners about similar parking agreements, parking management agreements on other private property. So that is something that we will come and talk to you about. If it's a hard no, you don't want to consider that, that's fine. Just want to throw it out that it might be an option in the future.
I don't think we'll be anywhere near a situation where we can just cast out an option to bring revenue into our budget, so without even
A
considering
lot of
it.
factors, obviously, with our
Yeah.
insurance, school
Totally.
debt. Well, yeah, we'll certainly
Yeah.
be happy to engage in conversation. Please.
Just another quick observation on parking, and this is, I'm sure this is directly a reflection of the congestion and time it takes for drop off and pickup, largely for pickup. But I'm at Rick Marcotte almost every day, and there are a lot of families who use the city's parking area for a brief period of time, but it allows, them to skip the line and wait for the buses, and it is taking up spots that the library and senior center might otherwise use. Again, it's a trade-off and a function of the congestion, but an observation I see every day.
It's a great point, yeah, and as we try to, address this together in partnership, we always think about the trade-offs, like, okay, so then they're not in those spots, so then it's just, it's like further traffic on Market, and what does that look like? So I don't know the answer, but, it's an important piece of information to be considered. Who knows, maybe folks will park there and, the city can get revenue for, half an hour and it's only a 6-minute, usage, I don't know.
Any further discussion about city center parking? Anyone online? All right, so agenda item 8 is other business. Any other business to attend to this evening? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn the steering committee meeting of South Burlington?
So moved.
And Barrett moves, do I have a second? Second. Laura Williams seconds, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The steering committee meeting is adjourned. The school board regular meeting will begin. Do we want to start early or, yeah, so let's say we'll begin at 7:30. Great.
John's out it for a long while, so
We're
no
good.
problem if it's,
I think we're good. We're on, we're live. Okay.
Thanks, Nick, computer. All right, I call the regular meeting of the South Burlington School Board to order on Wednesday, September 18th, 2024 at 7:33 PM. Are there any announcements or amendments to the agenda?
Yes, I have one, and I'm just trying to get to it. My apologies.
Take your time. We're ahead of schedule time, so.
Okay, you say that, it could take me a few minutes here.
Do you want to add that to reports by the board, agenda item 9? Or I can add it as long as you want to, that's all I'm asking. Do you have an announcement you want to make this evening?
Sure.
Okay, so, why don't we do that during agenda item 9, reports by the board?
Yeah, mine actually will go in reports by the board, but it'll fit there better, so.
Do you have like a topic where
Is it, we're talking to the finance committee at that point, or is that on the agenda?
the finance committee is more in for discussion items, so agenda item 5.
Okay, then we're good there. Yeah, I didn't.
This is.
You have to do. So, better? Yes. Okay. Tim. Do you need, you want to add an update about the finance committee?
So is the finance committee on the agenda?
I was looking at an old version.
Okay, that's okay. I thought, I don't have it up in front of me and I thought,
Yeah.
I don't think I saw it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we could just maybe add I'll do a quick update on it.
I'm looking actually now, I guess, can we add an agenda item? Let's call it 8 and it will be reports by the board. Or we could call it 7, reports by the board, and then we'll do our regular agenda planning and consent agenda following.
Sure.
And reports by the board will be an update on the finance committee from Tim and an announcement from Elaine.
Yes.
Does that sound good? Okay. Any other announcements or amendments to the agenda? Okay. All right, agenda item 4, comments from the public. This is the community's opportunity to share feedback and concerns with the board. We ask that you keep your comments concise, 2 to 3 minutes, and that you refrain from using any information that would identify a specific person. Please raise your hand in the room, or use the Zoom raised hand feature. We will only use the online chat to manage any tech issues. We are not able to take action on any issues brought to us during public comment. However, any board member may suggest tonight that the issue or question be added to a future agenda for discussion. We may also delegate addressing issues to our superintendent, Violet Nichols, and it is always helpful if you can email us a copy of your comments for follow-up. So with that said, there's nobody in the room. Any public comment online? Nobody online, okay. Moving on, agenda item 5, focus on student learning, student representative report.
Yeah, GI Spain students have officially arrived. High school students, be on the lookout for presentations in your foreign language classes this week. And this past weekend, GI students took a trip to Lake Placid for the day and have more Vermont adventures to come, and we're super excited to have them here.
Today, elementary schools and elementary schools experience their first early release day, and the high school experience their first late start. This marks a change in scheduling from last year, as late start and early release days were on Fridays. This year they're on Wednesdays, so this is just a reminder to students and parents to keep checking the calendar.
And the Orchard Fun Run is scheduled for September 27th and will start at 12 p.m. So families are welcome to volunteer or cheer on their Orchard students as they participate in this event.
And then the last announcement is just a brief update about the finance committee and student participation in that. So I just talked to Tim, and he got 4 applications from students, and I heard a lot of interest, which is really exciting. I don't wanna say anything that, like, you and, Chris haven't totally decided upon yet, but I know there are discussions and including 2 students instead of 1. I think this would be really helpful, to have 2 students so that they could kind of figure out the complex topic of ed funding and the school budget together. Yeah, so those are my answers.
Thank you. All right, agenda item 6, action items. This evening, we have our 2.0 global executive constraint policy for policy monitoring. Are there any questions about the report that we received about this policy?
No, are you looking for questions or just comments or? is it-
Yeah, questions or comments at this time. I don't think we need to have a full presentation. So any questions about the report? And if there are no questions, we will do our monitoring report summary.
I'll just do. Oh, yes. Okay. I did review it. I just want to say to Violet, it is a very great report, very thorough. I dove down into a number of the links that were there. And as I was going through this, I work for a large multinational that is highly regulated. And as I was reading your report, it made me think how regulated and how much attention to detail we have to pay at the school level as well. Because a lot of what I saw here, I was familiar with to some extent through the multinational. Not that we're a multinational, but it did remind me of that a lot. And I was just very impressed with the structure that I'm seeing and again, diving into some of the stuff, I looked at actually went into the staff handbook and looked at that for a little bit and some of the other stuff. And there's a tremendous amount there. And if there's community members listening to this, I would encourage them to take a look at that stuff. And I'm not sure if this is the report available to the public, it must be, and to take a look at it because I think it's an eye opener. To see what it is that has to be handled from this particular topic here. So just want to say I'm impressed. Thank you very much for this wonderful report.
Thank you, Tim.
I totally concur.
Great. Thanks.
No, I just like, I know all these trainings.
Yeah.
I take like 4 to 6 hours to do anyway.
Yeah, it's a lot of
It is still a lot.
regulatory pieces and it's a lot of details, so much goes into this, and when I like distill this into a report, you can see a tremendous amount of work, and then it's a few pages, so, it's a pleasure to share it, and thanks for the, call to the community to read it. It's great information, and I'd love for, folks to dig into these, to know what we do and how we do it more.
All right, are we ready to take action on this report? All right. 2.0 global executive constraint. The superintendent shall not allow any practice, activity, decision, or organizational circumstance that is unlawful, unsafe, imprudent, or in violation of commonly accepted educational and professional ethics and practices. The superintendent shall not fail to provide a continuous improvement process, including a complaint process. Is there a reasonable interpretation?
Yes.
Yes. Adequate data?
Yes.
Yes. In compliance?
Yes.
The 2.0 Global Executive Constraint Monitoring Report is hereby approved.
Thank you. Always good to be in
Need a
compliance.
little applause for this one.
Just call me Violet Compliance Nichols. But I mean, the worst things to be known for.
Right.
Especially for a school official.
Okay, so our new agenda item 7 is going to be reports by the board. Any preference of who goes first?
Let me go first. I can go first. Just as far as the finance committee, I want to apologize. It's taking a little bit longer to get off the ground than we had thought. So at this point, got a couple of draft agendas going forward, so the meetings are in the planning stage right now. Putting together like a list of the topics we want to cover from an informational perspective to get all members of the board up to speed, so we're all on the same playing field. I want to make sure that the members of the committee are able to speak, eloquently, but have a good grasp of the concepts that we're going to have to present throughout the coming months here. So that's in progress. Along with that, I've been working on the quote unquote education series. I think it's going to kind of dovetail with that as I'm working through a lot of those topics. I do have a couple almost done. I will send out for review. Again, it takes a little while. But my goal will be before we begin our listening event in early November to have the majority of those published so they can back up the listening event, right? So we can provide a list out and people can go look at those along with other material. So hopefully what we'll start to see is some of the stuff dovetailing here. I know we don't have a lot of time between now and when we do start the listening sessions in November. So I'll have to confirm with Chris what our schedule will be for those meetings, but I certainly am not anticipating 3-hour meetings. I mean, I'm thinking, we're talking maybe 90-minute meetings as we go forward, but it'll really be very informational. So that said, I do have a number of logistical questions around this since I've never run a public advisory board before. And I'm not sure if I just need to send those to you, Violet, or if I can ask them now and get some feedback, but tell me how you'd like me to handle it.
Yeah, you can ask questions now, if you can answer them, great, and if
Sure.
not, I'll look later.
So just logistically, as we look at posting our first agendas, do I send those to, how do they get posted? How does that going to happen?
I don't think that your committee meetings need to be, they don't need to adhere to open meeting law.
I read open meeting law and we're an advisory board, public advisory board. I think I may be wrong, but maybe we need to revisit this.
Yeah, it's a committee of the board, doesn't, open meeting law, it was written so open meeting law doesn't apply.
Okay.
I'm
okay.
happy to post
Then-
agendas on the website, but we won't, and there won't be a quorum of the board. So,
Okay, good. So when you say we wrote it so that open meeting law wouldn't, what in the,
but we didn't write it to open meeting law.
Right.
Wouldn't apply. I'm just
We
trying to
wrote it as a
understand, right.
committee of the board, and so it's not a, it's a committee. It's not a body with, the committee will make recommendations and share information, but they're not a decision-making body.
right, and
And we did that very intentionally because open meeting law can be kind of heavy in terms of being able to get your members to meet and having it be accessible to everyone, because if you have to, if you had to adhere by open meeting law, you'd have to broadcast your meeting or record your meeting and broadcast, and that just
Okay.
adds a whole bunch of extra challenges to workload.
no, and yeah, no, I'm fine with that because then that would mean we don't have to necessarily publish minutes.
You don't, and we don't have to pay someone to take.
Well, that was gonna be my next question,
Yeah.
was if we had to do that, who would handle that?
Yeah,
and
we
so
talked
forth.
about that being a structure of having like a clerk or a co-chair model so that somebody could have a role of that team.
Yeah.
You might have a facilitator, a timekeeper, a minute taker,
Yeah,
sort of a thing.
okay,
But
so,
we don't have the fun, I wish that this, we don't have the funding to allocate for
No,
like
no.
Nick to come in and, assist with this.
Well, the other thing I
But
think
it's a great
is,
question.
in its design, the committee is intended for you all to have meetings where you meet as a group, strategize and educate each other, and then you have events where you're educating the community, and those are by the nature of the work going to be open to the public, right? Because you're gonna have your listening sessions, or you're gonna have, if you decide to do some sort of canvassing, that's like, you'll be raising awareness, but not because you have to comply with open meeting law, because that's the point of the work.
so when we meet, we're not necessarily having public, it's not open to the public necessarily.
It's, I actually would say it's not open to the public
It's not.
unless it's a listening session or a community
We
forum.
advertise it
Yeah.
as such, okay, because I was, we wanted to consider listening sessions for the finance committee.
Because this committee isn't making decisions on behalf of the board, it's doing a heavy load of work that the board needs done, and that's just one piece of it, right? But, there's no decision that will be made in the finance committee that the public would need to weigh in on because it wouldn't, there's no like official action. Does that make sense?
Yes,
The committee might make recommendations to the board, and that would be done with a report given in open session. It would be warned on our agenda as the board, and that's how the community can listen into what the finance committee is working on.
okay, that answers quite a few questions then, so thank you.
It keeps it nimble. We want you to be an.
Well,
active.
that's helpful, right?
Yeah.
And, as I was reading through open meeting law, I assumed we would be an advisory board of some kind, but we're not, we're just a committee.
And it gives you flexibility to meet when you want, to convene when you want, to have, you know.
You can have chain emails if you wanted.
What's that?
You can have discourse
I'm just
over
not
email.
used to that.
And you need that for this committee in the short timeline.
And just as long as the community's aware that, you know, this isn't, and there's nothing.
Oh, yeah, that's how.
It's meant to be totally
Is
open.
that how you did it?
Yeah, it's how we did it, and it's
Okay.
actually kind of fun, because you are kind of free. It's
You
fun
get to
because-
So we could have
communicate.
we could have 4 students. on the committee.
You get to communicate and you get, and it's actually, I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay, great.
There's a lot of
Thank you.
transparency. You can share everything at any
Oh,
time.
yeah.
But it's
And
great.
share everything. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're happy to, from a district side, you can reach out to, Delina or Julia, and we're happy to post, information.
Oh, that's the other thing,
That's
yes.
helpful, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, Julia's really good at posting and sending out agendas.
Okay,
Yeah.
so once we get our agendas ready, I can ask Julia to
Yeah,
send them
that
out
was-
to, or I
I
could
just announced the meeting.
However you need help, we're happy to help.
Okay,
We want this, you know, the district supports this committee. It's a district sanctioned committee. We want significant engagement on budget.
Sure, okay.
ASAP.
So we just answered like 90% of my
Yeah.
questions. And I do have 1 or 2 topics I've identified where I may need some help from Tim Jarvis, and if that's
Yeah.
okay to reach out to him for some information.
Yeah, definitely just copy me on the emails.
Okay.
Any questions you have, you can always email me directly or call me, and then I can connect you with the right
Sure.
person if I can't answer it.
Okay. That's great. That's
And you
perfect.
have the folder of resources, for the committee as well.
Yes,
Okay.
do I?
I'm gonna share it with you right now, but I think,
Is it a Google Drive?
it's a folder. Mhm. I'm gonna just reshare it. All right. Thanks
Okay, I'm good. Thank you. Appreciate the
so
feedback.
much.
If you are.
Thanks for your leadership on this, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome.
I think it's gonna be awesome too. Talking about Ed Fund.
I
and-
think you're gonna love it.
Can't think of anything more fun.
So former board member Kate Bailey was just in the room and she said, I recognized that energy when you came out with the budget. And I said, yeah, it's like, but there is, I mean, it's an important topic and it comes with enthusiasm and passion and it's exciting, you know, to hear from our, engage that community around it.
I just do want to share when Jessie mentioned that, when she starts to talk about TIF and she can see the curtains closed for people. I feel the same way when I talk about the Ed Fund or the CLA, right? You can see the eyes start to close a little bit.
I did chat with a reporter from the other paper on Monday. And she asked a lot of questions about the finance committee, so I'm hoping there'll be some visibility and things coming out from her
Great.
about the committee.
Oh.
They've been here for like,
Okay. Elaine, would you like to share an announcement?
Yeah, I am going to have to resign my position on the board. Because my sister had heart surgery the end of August and, she lives 4.5 hours away from me and I really need to be with her at this time. And, my daughter needs to be with her at this time and, it was not an easy decision to make. I want to be absolutely clear that I so admire every single one of you at this table so much. And, you have the backs of the community, you have the backs of the students. Your hearts are so in the right place. And I value that so much. I can't tell you how much. I'm getting emotional. I should not, but I am. This has been my daughter's home for so many years, and she went to Rick Hop and is now at FHMS, and it's a huge life change for all of us. It's huge. But I sort of looked at all the circumstances and said, this is what I have to do. And how my husband and Greer love my sister to pieces, and she is one of the most important people in the world to me, and that's where I have to be. I'm so sorry. I'm so.
No,
We completely understand, sorry.
No. We are sad too.
I wanna say, Elaine, yeah, I think that you bring, remember when you first joined the board and I was telling you about what I felt the different strengths of different board members were, and I feel like you bring a really specific skill set of a wonderful lens for our students, and I think you have a really great connection to the community, and you care a lot about equity, and you're sensitive to different viewpoints, and you're, one of my favorite things that you'll say all the time is, oh, it's not the Elaine show, which basically means that even if you have a different perspective, you don't think that your perspective matters more than anyone else. And I just think you have a lot of attributes and qualities that have made you such a wonderful board member, and we're gonna miss you a lot.
So much.
But also, you're not replaceable in your family. And if the board is functioning, someone else can step up and do the work and leave you to be in the important role in your family that you need to be.
I
So
appreciate that. I just want to be absolutely clear. This has absolutely nothing with my attitude to the work or to the people, because you're amazing. All of you are amazing.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for you, and it has been my absolute pleasure to serve alongside you. I feel like you've been here forever, and your onboarding has seemed seamless, and the time and attention and effort that you put into board work never ceases to amaze me. You are so thorough and prepared, and you meet with constituents, and you provide time and always kindness and students first. And I have really, really enjoyed working with you to serve our schools. And I think our board is in a good place. And I am not, I think you have been a big part of creating a positive, this awesome board culture where we can sit here today and none of us are having a panic attack about this, but we have the understanding that we're appreciative of your time with us and understanding that you need to support your family. And I also admire that decision. Also be in touch, and you always have a share. Got my cell phone number. I had to say it. I mean, come on.
So I've chatted with Elaine a bit, and she's indicated that she thinks her last meeting will be October 9th. And it's a unique position where we have time to look to fill a board vacancy while we still have a board member on. So we're very familiar with that process. We'll get that rolling.
Honestly, I'm just gonna dust off the last process and I'm gonna share it with you. Great.
Yeah, as well.
Thank you, Elaine. All right, agenda item 8, agenda planning. Set agenda for October 9th meeting. As a reminder, we're hoping to keep this meeting pretty light, just based on our schedules that week. I would like to add the board vacancy timeline for the discussion on that today. So put that on. Wait a second. The next meeting is your last meeting.
Yes. That's not right.
That went so fast.
Yes, it did.
Okay, do you have that timeline pulled up now? I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
wondering if while we're in this meeting now.
Yep.
If we can decide, like, to post, could we have Julia post applications on the website? We decide on a day where we'd like to close applications. I don't know, maybe, do we want to just talk about this at the next meeting? Does that feel better? I don't want to be in a position of discussing something.
I think
that's
we
not
should warn
warned.
the subject.
Yeah, yeah, let's warn it. Okay, so it's on for the night. That's so soon.
It
Okay.
is so soon as I'm not prepared. I'm emotionally prepared.
I think you are as a team prepared to onboard a new member, and I feel confident in you all. Laura, you're the VSBA expert, come on.
I'm not prepared to, say goodbye to Elaine.
I know,
That was where I was going with that.
I know. To be honest, when I said that October 9th was your last meeting, we still have like 3 more meetings before she has to leave.
I was like, that's our next board meeting, but I'm not.
Nobody had the heart to tell.
I know. Like, we're not that much flying.
She doesn't know.
No, thank you.
Who will be with me during listening sessions?
Okay, anything else for October 9th? Is everyone looking at our draft agenda?
I'm just wondering, we don't have executive session for that time. I just didn't about contract negotiations.
Hmm.
Since Elaine, you're going to be later, I think you were,
Support staff.
right, so should we meet to discuss the state of contract negotiations?
I think that there's, in terms of allocating those teams, I don't know how much of this has to remain confidential. I've been in contact with the SBEA. I don't know, Violet, you're away on the 9th at a conference, correct?
I am, yep. So I'm gonna be at a business official superintendent, meeting. I was hoping to connect with some, other business officials and colleagues as we did last year at this on the night of the 9th. So, I'm enjoying virtually, so I'm there Wednesday and Thursday in Lake Maury, so I can't drive back to attend and be at the conference. I'll be on remotely.
And so I'm thinking an executive session that night may not be well timed, just because I would like to have another executive session where as a board, we discuss what our.
That's reflective of the budget.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I didn't cut the lights, I cut the cell phones. The printers.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'm just,
We definitely need to have another one. I'm not sure if the 9th will be like that productive.
yeah, I'm just looking at dates and, some of the prior notes and just want to make sure that, from a time perspective and commitment perspective, I'm kind of, we're kind of moving forward with what we need to. So,
Okay. Oh, this is the 9th. I just was looking at this and saw agenda planning set agenda for October 30th, and I'm like, what is happening? Okay, so if we're looking at the 9th agenda, is there anything else? If you see, we have discussion items, finance committee, school tours, listening sessions. We have a transportation update. We're monitoring 2.8 compensation and benefits.
So I had updated the Google Doc of this. It looks like, this is not updated, but so, I think we had, some of these items will be pared down. I may or may not have a transportation update.
That stuff can be, I guess, it's easy for you to connect with Delina. From the board perspective, is there anything else we need to add to the?
Could we add, just a brief update about the listening sessions, very brief?
That's on for discussion items.
Okay.
What about cell phones? Is that something we want to discuss on the night?
In terms of like continuing on like a cell phone ban or?
Yeah, I guess that discussion, I had also put in our timeline, potentially putting out a survey to our community this month. That's realistically not gonna happen, mostly because I really feel like I need robust feedback from the board about the scope of the survey.
I'd be happy to collect that information internally. I am working with the high school team on that. thought we had talked about me having a deadline date of the January
January
8th. Yeah.
for staff and student, or for staff and potentially student perspective, I'm talking about a survey to community members, which I was actually thinking probably one of the questions on the survey should be, do you have students in the district to know who's answering the questions in the community? Is it families or is it other people who may or may not have perspective on the issue? I don't want to get too much into the discussion. I guess I'm just asking, does the board want to discuss or try to do anything in the process of cell phones at our next meeting?
I can share that operationally, it's going really, really well,
that was
and
my
I'm not
question.
hearing problems, and I'm hearing teachers and students are. I'm hearing no negative feedback, just wanted to share, in case that informs your
Yeah.
discussion, I'm happy to provide that update with you.
I'm fine not having the discussion, like, I'm fine to see how this plays out operationally, but.
I think that's built into our timeline, is to see how it plays out operationally. It's also built into the timeline to make the decision, are we moving forward with looking at a policy? Or are we pleased and content with just operational changes?
And the other thing is, Chelsea, the state legislature is picking this up again in January.
Yeah.
That's another reason I think maybe we should just leave it alone,
Hmm.
because depending on what they do, we may not have a choice. So just something.
If we have operational issues, I will let the team know, for sure, but that's a great point on the legislative, piece.
Maybe we just want to add it as an update so that the community is aware. We have a formal announcement to the community on where we're at, with it, because I think there's a tremendous amount of interest in the topic, and if we don't have it on the agenda items, I'm afraid they may wonder.
So not to sort of ignore it.
No, I don't want
Yeah.
them to think we're ignoring it, just kind of where we're at with it. So,
Well, and like shamelessly, it does boost engagement, and if they're here to talk about cell phones, we can grab their ear for other stuff. And maybe
Prepare a budget presentation for the, no. Just kidding. I'm gonna be remote, I can't, be effective.
Tracy and Ally, perhaps at that meeting, if you want to be prepared, like between now and then, if you want to try to give some anecdotal evidence about how things are going in the high school.
Yeah.
In the middle school, potentially, that would be great.
How many students are you looking for that?
Whatever, I trust you to, for that decision. Sounds good. Yeah.
I think an informal update, yeah, find out, this will not be.
I'll get one for my daughters and all. See
Oh,
what
right.
I can tell you that we had the first, I was at the middle
Built-in
school.
sample right there.
And we had the first student come in for a phone that was taken away, so it's what day, 18 school, and it was the first one,
Really?
so, yeah. Yeah, it's, and, I talked to, acting principal John Craig at the high school today, and he told me that he's seeing decreased usage of cell phones in hallways and during, lunchtime as well, and so that was interesting, because, we restricted during the academic time, so.
Maybe repeating these updates.
Sure, yeah, happy to do it.
Okay, are we ready to move on to consent agenda? Right, agenda item 8, consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the September 4th minutes? Any questions or changes?
I'm sorry, I did not see the September 4th minutes in the document. Did I miss them? Because I did not review them.
I also,
I swear, so. No?
I did not see them posted on the website.
Oh.
I thought that I was missing something and requested them via email, but if the board hasn't.
I haven't had a chance to look at
So
them. I
let's
just didn't
just-
see them in the material, so I didn't look at them.
Yeah, I didn't either. Well, they're not here, that's true. So.
So if we could
So,
move that to
yeah.
next week. then.
Do that.
Or next meeting.
Approval of AP orders, and I just want to note for the record, on the warrant agenda, AP order 1048, that's a typo, it's it's AP order 1058. Has everyone had an opportunity to review AP orders 1046, 1058, 1061, 1062, and 1072?
Yes.
Any questions?
No, I was gonna ask a question, then I looked it up myself. VS a bit, I was wondering.
This bit,
Bit.
Vermont, State Insurance Trust, yes.
Okay. You win
I love
again.
it. Jeopardy time, I love it.
Even I could have answered that one.
Really, it was a lot of money and I just wondered what it
It's on my
was for.
paycheck.
Sure.
Insure, that's what I.
So when Jesse mentioned paid parking lot, all I was thinking about is VisBit.
Yeah.
What's our insurance certificate gonna say? And who's responsible for any kind of, disruption or, accidents, all of these
Right.
things, those are my,
Okay, hearing no questions or concerns, the AP orders 1,046, 1,058, 1,061, 1,062, and 1,072 are approved. Agenda item 9, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the South Burlington School Board?
Move to adjourn.
Lauren moves. Do I have a second? Elaine seconds. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Time.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
thank you.